Today we're going to talk about putting some extended studs on the back of a BRZ or FRS, same deal. So here are the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a 14mm socket, 14mm wrench, preferably ratcheting wrench. You're going to need a couple hammers, rubber mallet, and a solid hammer. I like the copper face. You're going to need a punch because you're going to need to fix this afterwards. You're going to need a 17mm socket driver. My trusty Harbor Freight tool works great for that. And you're going to need my preferable way to get bolts off, or studs off and back on, is a series of washers that will essentially fit on the lug eventually, and you'll use one of your old lug bolts. What you want to make sure when you do this is that you have very little tread sticking out when you finally get to do this. So one of the things we'll be doing when you tighten this back down, we'll get to that step in one of the final steps. But that's the big goal of all of this, is to remove the old studs and replace them with new ones. In the course of this, I'm also going to change the brake rotors as well. So once you have all your tools handy, this is about all you need. You loosen things up first. So the caliper gets loosened, the 14mm, and the pad holder gets loosened, also with a 14mm. So as you might have guessed, I've already pre-loosened these up, so they're just going to slide right off pretty easily. But oh, one thing I didn't point out, and I should, is that when you jack up the car, safety is a big deal. So I've had the jack stand secured on these two locations to make sure that this car is not going anywhere. So you want to make sure that as you're working on the car, it's completely out of the way, and take this whole assembly with the pads in it off the rotor and set this guy aside. You'll need that guy later. And then next, my rubber hammer. So occasionally you need to bang the rotor to loosen it up. You can see this one's already loose, but eventually it should just slide right off like butter front. So you need to take this whole assembly off. This whole hub piece needs to come off. And to do that, it's going to require two things. We're going to have to take this nut off, and we're also going to have to take the nuts at the back of the hub off. So these are the 4 nuts. 1, 2. These are 2 of the 4 nuts that you'll need to remove to get the hub off. 2mm off to the races. Here we go. There it is. Oh. Okay, so what I'm finding is it's taking a little bit more effort to get the hub out. After this has come out, there's some rust on this piece here. I'm going to use some WD-40 to direct into this area. And who knows, maybe it would have been worthwhile to try and do that to the other side ahead of time. But you can see that the hub is close to coming out. There it is. Just a little extra WD-40 and voila. With this in place on the car, you could hammer these off. Just setting this piece aside, let me just show you what I mean. So with this in place, take your trusty hammer, and there's stud 1 out. So you just paint a little bit on each of the 5 studs. They're basically in place. Now, this is the way we're going to secure them to their new homes. As you can see, we're going to need more than one because of the length of the extra length of the stud. So these need to be able to smoothly slide on, just like butter, like that. Okay? This is the magic. Ensure there's no gap. That way you know it's on there properly. There we go. Stud number 1 is in place. Okay, so now we're almost ready with the reassembly, and I noticed that there's some extra surface rust on this. So we're going to use a wire brush to take off some of that surface rust. And as a final check to make sure you've installed this correctly, I like to run the nuts, the lugs, open-ended lugs, all the way up on the studs to make sure that no issues. So that completes your ARP stud install.